My ex has been taking my child support and lying about it. The moment I saw the screenshot, my coffee mug hit the floor and shattered. My daughter Emma's face stared back at me from my sister's phone, tears streaming down her 8-year-old cheeks in a video call from Tuesday night. But it wasn't just seeing her cry that made my chest feel like it was caving in, it was hearing her small voice asking my sister Jenny why daddy stopped loving her enough to help mommy buy her new shoes for school. I don't understand, I whispered, staring at the frozen image. I sent the check 3 weeks ago. Same as I have every month for 2 years. Jenny's expression was grim as she scrolled through more screenshots on her phone. There's more, Marcus. Emma told me she's been wearing hand-me-downs from her friend's older sister. She said mommy explained that you decided to stop helping with her clothes and school supplies because you have a new life now. My hands were shaking. Every month, like clockwork, I wrote that $1,200 check to my ex-wife Vanessa. Every single month for 24 months straight. I had the bank statements to prove it, organized in a neat folder in my desk drawer because I'm obsessive about documentation, a habit that apparently was about to save my ass. Show me the rest, I said. Jenny swiped to another screenshot, this one from Vanessa's Instagram story posted just yesterday. There she was, grinning at some upscale restaurant downtown, showing off a Louis Vuitton purse that probably cost more than I made in a month at the auto shop. The caption read, treating myself because I deserve it. Nail polish sparkles # self-care # blessed life. I wanted to put my fist through the wall. There's more, Jenny said quietly. She showed me another post from last weekend, Vanessa at a spa day with her girlfriends, getting some expensive facial treatment, tagged at one of those fancy places that charges $300 just to walk through the door. Meanwhile, my little girl was asking relatives why her father didn't love her anymore. How long has this been going on? I asked, though I was pretty sure I already knew the answer. Emma mentioned it a few months ago, but I thought maybe there was just some confusion about timing or something. Kids don't always understand how bills work, you know. Jenny paused. But then she started getting more specific. She told me last week that she asked Vanessa when you might start sending money again, and Vanessa said you told her you were done playing daddy. The rage hit me like a physical force. I had never said anything remotely close to that. Emma was the center of my entire world. Every extra shift I picked up, every dollar I saved, every sacrifice I made was for her. Marcus, there's something else. Jenny's voice was almost a whisper now. Emma asked me if it would help if she wrote you a letter telling you she'd be a better daughter if you changed your mind about helping. That's when I lost it. Not in an explosive way, in that cold, calculating way that meant someone was about to face consequences they'd never see coming. I stood up, ignoring the coffee and ceramic shards on my kitchen floor, and walked straight to my desk. Time to get those bank statements out. Time to document everything. Time to show my manipulative ex-wife exactly what happened when you messed with my kid's heart. This was war now. The bank statement spread across my kitchen table told a story that made my blood boil hotter with each page I turned. 24 checks, each for exactly $1,200, all cashed within days of me sending them. The most recent one had cleared just 2 weeks ago, the same week Emma was apparently told I'd stopped caring. But as I dug deeper into my records, I found something that made my stomach drop. 3 months ago, there was an anomaly. Check number 147, dated July 15th, had been deposited twice. The original $1,200 I'd sent, plus another $1,200 deposit on the same day from V. Morrison Child Support. Vanessa's maiden name. I grabbed my laptop and started digging into my online banking history, cross-referencing dates with her Instagram posts. What I found painted a picture that was somehow even worse than I'd imagined. Every single month, right after my check cleared, there was a pattern of expensive purchases on her social media. The Louis Vuitton bag from yesterday. Posted 3 days after check number 170 cleared. The spa weekend. 4 days after check number 169. She wasn't just stealing my money, she was flaunting it. My phone rang, and Emma's name lit up the screen. My heart nearly stopped. She rarely called me directly anymore, and when she did, our conversations had become stilted and painful. Hi, baby girl, I answered, trying to keep my voice steady. Hi, daddy. Her voice was small, hesitant. Can I ask you something? You can ask me anything, sweetheart. Always. There was a long pause. Mommy said you might be able to help with my field trip next month. It costs $40, and she said maybe if I asked really nicely, you might say yes this time. This time. As if I'd been saying no to things. As if I hadn't been sending enough money every month to cover 10 field trips. Of course I can help with your field trip, Emma. I want to help with everything you need. Another pause, longer this time. Really? Mommy said you told her you couldn't afford to help me anymore because you have other priorities now. I closed my eyes and counted to 5. Emma, sweetheart, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I have never, ever said I couldn't help you with anything. You are my only priority. You always have been. But Mommy showed me the letter, Emma started, then stopped abruptly. I heard muffled voices in the background, and when she came back on the line, her tone had changed completely. I have to go, Daddy. I'll talk to you later. The line went dead. A letter? What letter? I immediately called my lawyer, David Reeves, even though it was almost 7 p.m. on a Friday. He answered on the second ring, one of the benefits of paying his retainer fees on time for 2 years. Marcus? What's wrong? David, I need to know if there's any legal correspondence that's been sent on my behalf regarding child support. Any letters, any official documents, anything that might suggest I'm trying to reduce or eliminate payments. What? No, absolutely not. We haven't sent any correspondence about your support payments since the original agreement was finalized. Why? I explained everything, the stolen money, the lies, the mysterious letter Emma mentioned. David was quiet for a long moment after I finished. Marcus, if what you're telling me is accurate, we're not just looking at parental alienation here. If she's forged any documents purporting to be from you or your legal representation, that's fraud. Potentially criminal fraud. What's our next move? Document everything. I mean everything. And whatever you do, don't confront her directly yet. If she's willing to manipulate your daughter and forge legal documents, there's no telling how far she'll escalate if she feels cornered. Too late for that advice. I was already planning my next move. Saturday morning, I was parked outside Emma's school at 7:30 a.m., 3 hours before her soccer game started. I needed answers, and I had a feeling the other parents might have some pieces to this puzzle. Sarah Chen, mom to Emma's teammate Lily, was setting up her folding chair when she spotted me. We'd chatted at games before. She was one of the few parents who didn't treat me like a deadbeat dad stereotype just because I worked with my hands instead of wearing a suit. Marcus. You're here early, she called out, walking over with her coffee. Emma's been so excited about today. Though. She paused, looking uncomfortable. I hope you don't mind me saying, but Lily mentioned Emma's been worried about whether you'd show up to games anymore. My stomach clenched. What do you mean? Oh, it's probably nothing. You know how kids talk. Sarah shifted her weight. It's just that Emma told Lily a few weeks ago that you might not be coming to her activities much anymore because you were having money troubles and couldn't afford the gas. Money troubles. When I just bought a newer truck last month because business at the shop had been so good. Sarah, can I ask you something? Has Emma mentioned anything about? I don't know, needing things. Clothes, supplies, anything like that. Sarah's expression grew serious. Actually, yes. Last month at Lily's birthday party, Emma was admiring Lily's new cleats. When I mentioned that maybe she could ask for a pair for her birthday, she said her mom told her they couldn't afford new cleats because daddy wasn't helping with expenses anymore. She frowned. But that seemed odd, because didn't Vanessa just post about that expensive girl's trip to Napa last month? My jaw tightened. She went to Napa. Oh yes, looked like a really fancy resort. I remember because I was so jealous. Mike and I haven't had a vacation in 2 years. Sarah studied my face. Marcus, is everything okay? Emma's such a sweet kid, but lately she seems. I don't know, sadder. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Jessica, Vanessa's friend. We need to talk. Meet me at Brewster's Coffee on Pine Street in an hour. Come alone. I stared at the message. Jessica, I remembered her from when Vanessa and I were still together. Blonde, worked in real estate, always seemed to be the voice of reason in Vanessa's friend group. I have to go, I told Sarah. But thank you. This conversation helped more than you know. An hour later, I was sitting across from Jessica Martinez in a corner booth at Brewster's. She looked nervous, fidgeting with her wedding ring and glancing around like she expected Vanessa to materialize out of thin air. I shouldn't be doing this, she started. But what she's doing to Emma isn't right, and I can't stay quiet anymore. What exactly is she doing, Jessica? Marcus, she's been telling people you stopped paying child support months ago. She's got this whole sob story about how you're a deadbeat dad who abandoned his responsibilities. Jessica leaned forward. But here's the thing, I was with her at the bank last month when she deposited your check. She made some joke about Marcus's guilt money paying for her massage appointments. The coffee cup creaked in my grip. She said that. There's more. She's been creating evidence. She showed our book club what she claimed was a letter from your lawyer saying you wanted to terminate support payments. But Marcus, I used to work as a paralegal before I got into real estate. That letter was fake. The letterhead was wrong, the legal language was all off, and the signature looked like she practiced it. My vision tunneled. She forged legal documents. I think so. And she's been coaching Emma on what to say to people. Last week at my daughter's sleepover, I heard her on the phone with Emma, telling her to remember what we talked about regarding Daddy's new priorities. Jessica pulled out her phone. I recorded part of that conversation. I felt terrible doing it, but I was worried about Emma. She played a 20-second audio clip. Vanessa's voice came through clearly. Remember, sweetie, Daddy decided his new life is more important than helping us. That's why Mommy has to work extra hard to buy you things. But don't tell him I said that, okay? I was going to destroy her. I walked out of that coffee shop feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. The recording Jessica played kept looping in my head, Vanessa's voice coaching my 8-year-old daughter to believe her father had abandoned her. But what came next made everything 10 times worse. My phone rang as I was unlocking my truck. Emma's name on the screen, but when I answered, it was Vanessa's voice that greeted me. Marcus, we need to talk. Emma's getting confused about some things, and I think it's best if we clear the air. The audacity was breathtaking. You want to clear the air? Don't take that tone with me. I'm trying to protect our daughter from disappointment. She keeps asking when you're going to start helping again, and frankly, it's getting exhausting having to explain why her father won't step up. I pulled into an empty parking lot and put the truck in park. Every instinct screamed at me to unload everything I discovered, but David's warning echoed in my head. Don't let her know what you know. Not yet. Vanessa, I've been sending you $1,200 every month for 2 years. Every check has cleared. That's not what we're talking about, Marcus, and you know it. Emma needs things that money doesn't cover. Her field trip, new clothes for school, proper soccer equipment. When she asks for these things, you always have some excuse. What field trip? I kept my voice level. Emma mentioned it yesterday, and I told her of course I'd pay for it. There was a pause. Well, that's new. You've been saying no to everything for months. Show me one text, one email, one piece of evidence where I said no to anything for Emma. Another pause, longer this time. I don't keep records of every conversation we have, Marcus. But Emma knows. She remembers when you tell her no. Put Emma on the phone. She's not here. Then where is she? It's Saturday afternoon. She's at my mother's. Lie. I could hear cartoons playing in the background, the same SpongeBob episode Emma had been obsessed with last month during my visitation weekend. Vanessa, I want to see Emma tonight. And I want to take her shopping for whatever she needs for school. That's not necessary. We can handle. It's not a request. I'll be there at 6. I hung up before she could respond and immediately called my sister Jenny. I need you to do something for me, I said when she answered. Can you call Emma right now? Tell her you were thinking about her and wanted to check in. Don't mention our conversation yesterday, just see what she says about me. Marcus, what's going on? Just trust me. Please. 20 minutes later, Jenny called back. Her voice was shaky. Marcus, she answered on the first ring, like she'd been waiting by the phone. When I asked how she was doing, she immediately started apologizing. Apologizing for what? For not being good enough. She said she's been trying really hard to be better, so maybe you'd want to help mommy again. Then she asked if I thought you'd come to her school's fall festival next month, but she said she understood if you were too busy with more important things. My heart shattered into 1,000 pieces. Jenny, she's 8 years old. She thinks her father doesn't love her because she's not good enough. There's something else, Jenny said quietly. She asked if I knew what she did wrong to make you stop caring. She's been making herself sick thinking she caused this. I sat in that parking lot for another 10 minutes, staring at my bank statement spread across the passenger seat. 24 months of proof that I'd never stopped caring, never stopped providing, never stopped being the father Emma deserved. But my daughter was blaming herself for her mother's lies. This wasn't just about money anymore. This was about saving my little girl from believing she wasn't worthy of love. The war was about to get nuclear. When I pulled into Vanessa's driveway at exactly 6 p.m., I could see her peeking through the blinds. Emma came running out before I even turned off the engine, and the sight of her nearly broke me all over again. She was wearing a faded Disney shirt that was clearly too small and jeans with a patch on the knee that looked like it had been sewn on by someone who'd never held a needle before. Daddy. She threw her arms around my waist, but there was something different about her hug. Desperate, almost. Like she was afraid I might disappear. Hey, baby girl. Ready to do some shopping? Emma pulled back and looked up at me with those big brown eyes that were exactly like mine. Mommy said you might not have enough money right now. We don't have to buy anything expensive. The way she said it, so careful, so worried about being a burden, made my chest tight. Emma, I want you to listen to me very carefully. Daddy always has money for the things you need. Always. Over her shoulder, I saw Vanessa emerge from the house. She'd clearly spent time getting ready for this confrontation, full makeup, hair done, wearing a designer dress I didn't recognize. Probably paid for with my child support money. Marcus, you don't need to make promises you can't keep, she called out, walking toward us with that fake concerned mother voice she'd perfected. Emma understands that things are tight right now. I knelt down to Emma's eye level, keeping my hands on her shoulders. Sweetheart, nothing is tight. Daddy has been sending mommy money for all your needs every single month. $1,200, every month, for 2 years. Emma's brow furrowed in confusion. But mommy said. I know what mommy said. But sometimes grown-ups get confused about money things. I stood up, keeping Emma close to my side. That's why we're going to go get you everything you need today, okay? Vanessa's smile had turned razor sharp. Marcus, can I talk to you privately for a minute? Anything you need to say, you can say in front of Emma. I really think. No. My voice was firm enough that Emma looked up at me with surprise. I softened it immediately for her benefit. Emma, go get in Daddy's truck and pick some music for our shopping trip, okay? As soon as Emma was out of earshot, Vanessa's mask dropped completely. What exactly do you think you're doing? She hissed. Taking my daughter shopping with the money I've been faithfully providing that somehow never makes it to her. You can't just show up here and undermine my parenting. I know what's best for Emma. Do you? Because what's best for Emma would be having the clothes and supplies I've been paying for, instead of watching you parade around in designer bags while she wears hand-me-downs. Vanessa's face flushed red. I don't know what you think you know. I know about the Louis Vuitton. I know about Napa. I know about the spa days and the restaurant receipts that coincidentally happen right after my checks clear. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. And I know about the fake letter you've been showing people. For just a second, pure panic flashed across her face before she recovered. I have no idea what you're talking about. Jessica Martinez sends her regards. The color drained from Vanessa's face completely. She opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again like a fish gasping for air. Marcus, you don't understand the full situation. I understand that my daughter thinks she's not good enough for her father's love because you've been lying to her for months. I turned toward my truck where Emma was waiting. We'll be back by 9. You can't take her. I looked back over my shoulder. Actually, according to our custody agreement, I can take her whenever it's in her best interest. And right now, getting her the basic necessities she's been denied seems pretty important. As I walked away, I heard Vanessa make a phone call. The only words I caught were emergency and lawyer, but I was already 3 steps ahead of her. David was expecting her call. The shopping trip with Emma should have been one of those perfect father-daughter moments you see in commercials. Instead, it became the most heartbreaking 3 hours of my life. At Target, Emma kept gravitating toward the clearance racks, checking price tags with the careful attention of someone twice her age. When I pulled a regular-priced pack of school supplies off the shelf, she gently took it from my hands and walked it back to put it where I'd found it. Daddy, these ones are just as good, she said, holding up a generic brand that cost $3 less. We don't need the expensive ones. Emma, we can get whatever brand you want. But she was already walking toward the clearance section, her small shoulders carrying a weight no 8-year-old should bear. I followed her, watching as she methodically compared prices on everything, notebooks, pencils, even a basic backpack that was marked down because it had a tiny scuff on one corner. This one's perfect, she announced, holding up the damaged backpack with forced enthusiasm. It's got character. That's when I realized Vanessa hadn't just been stealing money, she'd been training my daughter to expect less. To settle for damaged goods because that's all she was worth. Baby girl, look at me. I knelt down beside her in the school supply aisle. Do you know how much money Daddy makes? She shook her head, suddenly looking worried that she'd asked the wrong question. I make enough money to buy you 10 backpacks if you wanted them. 20 backpacks. 100 backpacks. Her eyes widened. The only reason we're being careful with money is because it makes Daddy happy when you're smart about spending. But being smart doesn't mean you can't have nice things. Really? Really? So let's start over. What backpack do you actually want? She bit her lip, glancing around the store like she was checking to make sure no one was watching. Then, slowly, she pointed to a purple backpack with sparkly unicorns on it. It was regular price, nothing fancy, but her face lit up when she looked at it. That one's beautiful. Let's get it. By the time we finished shopping, our cart was full of school clothes, supplies, new soccer cleats, and the winter coat she'd need in a few months. At checkout, the total came to $347, less than a third of what I sent Vanessa every month. Daddy? Emma asked as we loaded bags into my truck. Can I ask you something without you getting mad? Of course, sweetheart. Did you really tell Mommy you couldn't help anymore? She said you had a letter from your lawyer and everything. My hands stilled on the shopping bags. Emma, I never sent any letter like that. I never told Mommy I couldn't help. In fact, I've been sending her money for you every single month since the divorce. But she showed me the paper. Sometimes people make mistakes with papers. Sometimes they even get the wrong papers by accident. I was choosing my words carefully, but Emma was smart. Too smart. Daddy, are you and Mommy fighting about money? I lifted her into the truck and buckled her seatbelt, buying myself time to think. Emma, Mommy, and I are working through some confusing stuff about money. But I need you to know that no matter what happens with the grown-up stuff, I will always take care of you. Always. She nodded seriously. I know. But Daddy, I think Mommy gets confused about money sometimes. Last week she said we couldn't afford pizza, but then she bought those really expensive candles that smell like flowers. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Vanessa's attorney called. They want an emergency hearing Monday morning. She's claiming you're interfering with her parental authority and making unauthorized purchases. Also, she's requesting immediate supervised visitation pending a psychological evaluation. I stared at the message, feeling the ground shift beneath my feet. She wasn't just going to fight me on the money, she was going to try to take Emma away completely. The gloves were officially off. When I got Emma home at 8:47 p.m., 13 minutes early because I knew Vanessa would be timing it, she was waiting on the front porch with her arms crossed and a man I didn't recognize standing beside her. He was wearing a cheap suit and holding what looked like official papers. That's my daddy, Emma whispered, suddenly gripping my hand tighter. The man stepped forward as we approached. Marcus Thompson. I'm Gary Wendell, legal advocate. I need to serve you with some papers regarding an emergency custody modification. My stomach dropped, but I kept my voice steady for Emma's sake. Emma, sweetheart, take your new backpack inside and put your school supplies somewhere safe, okay? But Daddy. It's okay, baby girl. The grown-ups just need to talk for a few minutes. Emma reluctantly went inside, clutching her unicorn backpack like a shield. The moment the door closed, Vanessa launched into her performance. Gary, as you can see, Marcus is already trying to alienate Emma from me. 3 hours of shopping designed to make him look like the hero while undermining my authority as her primary guardian. Gary handed me the papers with the enthusiasm of someone who clearly didn't want to be working on a Saturday night. Sir, these documents outline Mrs. Morrison's request for immediate supervised visitation and a court-ordered psychological evaluation. There's also a restraining order that requires you to cease all direct contact with your daughter outside of supervised visits until the hearing. The words hit me like a sledgehammer. A restraining order? On what grounds? Vanessa's voice took on that fake concerned tone again. Marcus, your behavior today was erratic and aggressive. Showing up unannounced, making wild accusations about money, deliberately contradicting my parenting decisions in front of Emma. I'm concerned about your mental state. My mental state. The laugh that came out of me was harsh enough that Gary took a step back. You've been stealing $24,000 over 2 years and lying to our daughter about it, but I'm the one who's mentally unstable. Gary, you see what I mean? Vanessa gestured at me like I was Exhibit A, these paranoid delusions about money, the anger issues, the way he's trying to turn Emma against me. I have documentation of his increasingly unstable behavior patterns. Gary looked uncomfortable, shuffling through his papers. Sir, I'm just serving the documents. The hearing is scheduled for Monday morning at 9 a.m. You'll have the opportunity to respond to all allegations at that time. As Gary walked back to his car, I quickly scanned the legal documents. What I found made my blood run cold. Vanessa hadn't just filed for supervised visitation, she'd painted a picture of me as an unfit father who was having a psychological breakdown following my financial difficulties and was attempting to manipulate the child against her mother through expensive gifts and false promises. But the most damaging part was at the bottom of page 3, a sworn affidavit claiming I'd been increasingly volatile and making threatening statements about destroying her reputation during recent interactions. Vanessa, you know none of this is true. She stepped closer, lowering her voice so Gary couldn't hear from his car. Marcus, you have no idea what I'm capable of when someone threatens my security. Emma is my meal ticket, and I'm not going to let you ruin that because you suddenly grew a conscience. The mask had slipped completely. There was my ex-wife's true face, cold, calculating, and utterly without remorse for what she'd done to our daughter. So this was all planned. The lies, the manipulation, even this legal ambush tonight. I've been 3 steps ahead of you since the moment you walked into that coffee shop with Jessica today. Did you really think she came to you out of the goodness of her heart? Vanessa smiled, and it was like looking at a stranger. Jessica owes me $15,000 from a real estate deal that went sideways last year. She'll say whatever I need her to say. My phone buzzed. A text from Jessica. Marcus, I'm sorry. I can't be involved in this anymore. Please don't contact me again. The recording. The evidence. The one witness who could corroborate Vanessa's lies, all gone in an instant. You see, Marcus. I don't just steal money. I collect insurance policies. Vanessa glanced toward the window where I could see Emma's silhouette watching us. And right now, my biggest insurance policy is in there believing that her daddy might be taken away from her because of his own behavior. Imagine how that's going to affect her testimony when the court-appointed psychologist asks about our family dynamics. She'd weaponize my own daughter against me. As I drove home with those papers burning a hole in my passenger seat, I realized I wasn't just fighting for money anymore, or even for my reputation. I was fighting for Emma's future, because a mother who would manipulate her own child this ruthlessly would destroy that little girl's ability to trust anyone, ever. But Vanessa had made one critical mistake. She thought she knew everything about my insurance policies. She had no idea what David and I had been preparing for the last 6 hours. Monday morning arrived like a death sentence. I sat in the courthouse hallway at 8:30 a.m., watching Vanessa hold court with her lawyer, a sharp-dressed woman named Patricia Hoffman who had a reputation for eating fathers alive in custody cases. They were huddled together, occasionally glancing in my direction with satisfied smirks. David arrived at 8:45, carrying a banker's box that made my heart skip. "Please tell me that's what I think it is," I whispered. "Better." He set the box down carefully. "Remember how you said Vanessa made one critical mistake? Well, she made several. Starting with the fact that she filed her emergency petition through the same court system where she owes $3,200 in unpaid traffic fines." My eyebrows shot up. "She what?" "Gets better. Patricia Hoffman apparently didn't do her due diligence on client background checks. Your ex-wife has been driving on a suspended license for 4 months. She drove here today." David nodded toward the window where Vanessa's BMW was parked in clear view of the courthouse security cameras. "But that's not the best part," he continued, pulling out a thick manila folder. "Remember that fake letter Vanessa's been showing people? The one Jessica claimed was forged?" "Yeah, but Jessica recanted. She won't testify." David's smile was predatory. "She doesn't have to. Because while Vanessa was busy manipulating Jessica into silence, she forgot about the other person who saw that letter." He handed me a sworn affidavit. At the top, in neat professional letterhead, was the name, Sandra Chen, certified public accountant. "Sarah's sister?" I asked, recognizing the last name. "Sarah mentioned your situation to Sandra yesterday. Turns out Sandra was at that book club meeting where Vanessa showed off her evidence. Being a CPA, Sandra photographed the letter because the legal language seemed off and she wanted to research it later." My hands trembled as I opened the folder. There it was, a crystal-clear photo of the forged document, complete with the wrong letterhead, incorrect legal formatting, and a signature that looked nothing like David's actual signature. "Sandra also happens to be a forensic accountant who specializes in divorce fraud cases," David added. "She spent all day Sunday analyzing Vanessa's social media posts against your bank records. Want to know what she found?" He pulled out a detailed spreadsheet that made my head spin. Every check I'd written, cross-referenced with Vanessa's Instagram posts, with purchase estimates based on tagged locations and visible items. The correlation was damning, $28,750 in luxury purchases over 18 months, all timed within days of my support payments clearing. There's more. Sandra called 3 of the establishments Vanessa frequented, the spa, that restaurant, and the boutique where she bought the Louis Vuitton bag. Turns out Vanessa paid cash for everything and made a point of mentioning her ex-husband's guilt money to multiple service providers. My jaw dropped. She actually said that to strangers. Apparently she thought it was funny. Made jokes about how easy men are to manipulate after a divorce. The spa manager remembers her specifically because she tipped in $100 bills while complaining about her deadbeat ex not supporting their child. At 8:55, just as we were heading into the courtroom, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "This is Rachel, Emma's teacher. I know about the court hearing today. There are things you need to know about Emma's behavior at school. Call me." I showed David the message. He glanced at his watch, then at the courtroom door where Vanessa was already taking her seat. "Answer it," he said. "We've got 2 minutes." I dialed quickly. Rachel answered immediately. "Mr. Thompson, I shouldn't be doing this, but Emma came to school this morning crying. She told me her mommy said the judge might decide she can't see Daddy anymore because Daddy's been acting scary." My heart clenched. "She said that?" "There's more. Emma's been having anxiety attacks during math class for the past month. When I asked her about it, she said numbers make her think about money, and money makes her think about why Daddy doesn't love her anymore." David was already taking notes. "Mr. Thompson, I've been teaching for 15 years. Emma's behavioral changes over the past few months are consistent with parental manipulation. I've documented everything, and I'm prepared to testify if needed." As I hung up, David was grinning like a shark who'd just spotted blood in the water. "Marcus, your ex-wife just handed us everything we need to destroy her. The question is, how nuclear do you want to go?" Looking through the courtroom door at Vanessa, watching her whisper confidently to her lawyer while my daughter sat at home thinking her father might disappear forever, I felt something cold and final settle in my chest. Scorched earth, David. Scorched earth. Judge Patricia Hawkins called the court to order at exactly 9:07 a.m., and I could tell within 30 seconds that Vanessa had made her biggest mistake yet. She'd dressed for the wrong audience. While I sat in my only good suit, clean-shaven and respectful, Vanessa had shown up looking like she was heading to brunch at the country club. Designer dress, expensive jewelry, a handbag that probably cost more than most people's rent. Judge Hawkins noticed. Her eyes lingered on Vanessa's outfit with the kind of expression that made lawyers nervous. Patricia Hoffman stood first, launching into a rehearsed speech about my erratic behavior and financial manipulation of Emma. She painted a picture of a desperate father using money to buy his daughter's affection while undermining the mother's authority. "Your Honor, Mr. Thompson's actions demonstrate a pattern of parental alienation disguised as generosity. He's attempting to position himself as the fun parent while making Mrs. Morrison appear neglectful." As she spoke, I watched Vanessa nodding along with practiced concern. She'd even managed to work up some tears, impressive performance for someone who'd been cackling about her insurance policies 2 days earlier. Then David stood up, and everything changed. "Your Honor, before we address Mrs. Morrison's concerns about Mr. Thompson's mental state, I'd like the court to examine the evidence of Mrs. Morrison's financial fraud." He placed the first exhibit on the clerk's desk, my bank statements, highlighted in yellow. 24 months of child support payments, totaling $28,800, all cashed by Mrs. Morrison within days of receipt. Vanessa's lawyer looked confused. Your Honor, we're not disputing that support payments were made. Exhibit B, David continued, placing Sandra's forensic analysis on the desk. A detailed correlation between support payment dates and Mrs. Morrison's documented luxury purchases, totaling approximately $28,750 over 18 months. I watched the blood drain from Vanessa's face. Your Honor, Patricia Hoffman stammered, whatever Mrs. Morrison chooses to purchase with legally received support funds is not. Exhibit C. David's voice was getting louder. Sworn affidavits from 3 service providers who heard Mrs. Morrison refer to child support payments as guilt money while making cash purchases for personal luxury items. Judge Hawkins was leaning forward now, studying the documents with intense focus. And finally, Exhibit D. David placed the photograph of the forged letter on the desk. A fraudulent document bearing my forged signature, created by Mrs. Morrison to convince community members that Mr. Thompson was legally abandoning his financial responsibilities. The courtroom went dead silent. Vanessa was staring at the photo like it was a bomb about to explode. Your Honor, Patricia Hoffman said weakly, we'll need time to examine these allegations. Mrs. Morrison, Judge Hawkins interrupted, her voice sharp enough to cut glass. Did you create and distribute a document bearing Mr. Reeves' forged signature? Vanessa opened her mouth, but no sound came out. The confident woman who'd been manipulating situations for months was finally cornered with nowhere to run. There may have been some confusion about paperwork. Mrs. Morrison, I'm going to ask you one more time. Did you forge legal documents? The silence stretched for what felt like hours. Finally, Vanessa whispered, I was trying to protect Emma from disappointment. Judge Hawkins' expression could have frozen hell over. Bailiff, I want Mrs. Morrison's vehicle registration checked against her current license status. Now. My phone buzzed with a text from Emma, Daddy, I'm scared. When are you coming home? She had no idea her mother's entire house of cards was about to collapse. The bailiff returned to the courtroom 15 minutes later with a printout that made Judge Hawkins' jaw visibly tighten. She studied the document for a long moment before looking up at Vanessa with undisguised disgust. Mrs. Morrison, according to the DMV records, your license has been suspended since March 15th for failure to appear on multiple traffic violations. Yet you drove to my courthouse this morning and parked in full view of security cameras. Vanessa's hands were shaking now. Your Honor, I can explain. Furthermore, Judge Hawkins continued, your outstanding fines total $3,200, which coincidentally is almost exactly 3 months of the child support payments you've been misappropriating. Patricia Hoffman looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. Your Honor, if we could focus on the custody matter. Oh, we're absolutely going to focus on custody, counselor. The judge's voice was ice cold. Because a mother who commits fraud, forges legal documents, and drives illegally while manipulating her 8-year-old daughter into believing her father abandoned her is precisely the kind of parent this court takes very seriously. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Emma, Daddy, Aunt Jenny picked me up from school. She won't tell me why. Are you in trouble? My heart broke all over again. Even now, Emma was worried that somehow this was my fault, that her father had done something wrong and was going to be taken away from her. David leaned over and whispered, there's more coming. Are you ready? Before I could ask what he meant, the courtroom door opened and Rachel Martinez walked in, Emma's teacher, carrying a manila folder that looked official enough to be evidence. Judge Hawkins looked surprised. Ms. Martinez? I wasn't aware we had additional witnesses. Your Honor, I apologize for the interruption, but I have documentation that directly relates to the child's well-being. Rachel approached the bench with the confidence of someone who testified before. I'm Emma Thompson's 3rd grade teacher, and I've been documenting concerning behavioral changes for the past 3 months. She handed the folder to the clerk. Emma has been having anxiety episodes during basic math lessons because, in her words, numbers make me think about money, and money makes me think about why Daddy doesn't love me anymore. Vanessa made a small choking sound. Additionally, Rachel continued, Emma has been hoarding food from her lunch, telling classmates she needs to save it in case there's no dinner money. She's also been giving away her school supplies to children who forget theirs, saying her mommy told her, we have to share because Daddy won't buy more. Judge Hawkins was writing notes furiously. Ms. Martinez, in your professional opinion, are these behaviors consistent with parental manipulation? Absolutely, Your Honor. Emma is exhibiting classic symptoms of a child who's been coached to believe she's a financial burden on her family. It's heartbreaking to watch. That's when my phone rang. Not a text, an actual call from Jenny. I looked at David, who nodded grimly. Your Honor, David said, I believe this call is from Mr. Thompson's sister, who is currently caring for Emma. Given the child's state of mind, this may be urgent. Judge Hawkins nodded. Answer it, Mr. Thompson. Put it on speaker. Jenny's voice filled the courtroom, tight with worry. Marcus, I don't know what's happening in court, but Emma just asked me if she needs to pack a bag to go live with strangers because she made Mommy and Daddy fight about money. The sound of my daughter's voice came through in the background. Aunt Jenny, can you ask the judge not to be mad at Daddy? I promise I'll need less things if he can just come home. Vanessa started crying, real tears this time, but I couldn't tell if they were from guilt or fear of what was coming next. Because David was already reaching for another folder, and his expression told me that Emma's pain was about to get much, much worse before it got better. Judge Hawkins hung up the phone and the silence in the courtroom was deafening. I could see Vanessa wiping her eyes, but she'd gone pale as paper. David was still holding that unopened folder, and something about his expression made my stomach clench. Your Honor, David said carefully, there's one more matter we need to address before any custody decisions are made. He opened the folder and pulled out what looked like medical records. This morning at 7:43 a.m., Emma Thompson was taken to Riverside Elementary's nurse's office complaining of stomach pains. When the nurse examined her, she found something concerning. My heart stopped. What kind of concerning? Emma has lost 8 pounds in the last 2 months. She's been secretly giving away half her lunch every day because she believes her family can't afford to pack her a full meal. David handed the documents to the clerk. The school nurse documented signs of stress-related malnutrition. I shot to my feet. She's starving herself. Judge Hawkins held up a hand. Mr. Thompson, please remain seated. But her expression was thunderous as she read the nurse's report. Mrs. Morrison, your daughter is medically underweight because she believes your family is experiencing food insecurity. How do you explain this while wearing a dress that costs more than most people's monthly grocery budget? Vanessa's voice came out as a whisper. Emma never told me she was giving away her lunch. Because she was trying to help. The words exploded out of me before I could stop them. She's 8 years old and she's been starving herself because she thinks it's her fault that we can't afford food. Mr. Thompson, Judge Hawkins said firmly, but not unkindly. I understand your anger. David placed a hand on my shoulder. Your Honor, there's one final piece of evidence. This morning, Emma's school counselor received a note that Emma wrote during free time yesterday. He handed over a piece of construction paper with Emma's careful third-grade handwriting. Judge Hawkins read it silently, and I watched her face transform from judicial sternness to barely contained fury. Mrs. Morrison, I'm going to read your daughter's note aloud. The judge's voice was steady, but I could hear the rage underneath. Dear God, please don't let Mommy and Daddy fight about money anymore. I promise I will eat less food and not ask for anything ever again if you make Daddy love me again. I'm sorry I cost too much money. Love, Emma. The sound that came out of me wasn't quite human. My 8-year-old daughter had been praying to God to make her cost less money. Vanessa was sobbing openly now, but Judge Hawkins wasn't finished. Furthermore, the counselor reports that when asked about her family situation, Emma stated that her mommy works extra hard to buy food because Daddy decided his new life was more important. Mrs. Morrison, did you tell your daughter that her father chose to abandon his financial responsibilities? I was trying to explain why we had to be careful with money. While posting Instagram photos of yourself at luxury spas paid for with his support payments. Judge Hawkins' voice rose for the first time. While your daughter was giving away food because she believed her family was destitute. Patricia Hoffman made one last desperate attempt. Your Honor, Mrs. Morrison's financial choices don't necessarily indicate. Counselor, your client has committed fraud, forgery, and child psychological abuse. She has caused an 8-year-old child to develop an eating disorder based on manufactured poverty while living off stolen support payments. Judge Hawkins closed the file with a sharp snap. I've seen enough. My phone buzzed with a text from Jenny. Emma just asked if she's going to jail because she caused all this trouble. Marcus, this baby is breaking apart. That's when I realized that winning this battle might not be enough to fix what Vanessa had broken in my little girl's heart. Judge Hawkins looked down at her notes for what felt like an eternity before speaking. I'm ordering an immediate modification of custody arrangements. Mrs. Morrison, you will surrender Emma to Mr. Thompson's care within 2 hours. Your visitation rights are suspended pending a full investigation into fraud and child endangerment charges. Vanessa's sob echoed through the courtroom. Your Honor, please, Emma is everything to me. Emma was everything to you when she served your purposes, the judge snapped. Bailiff, escort Mrs. Morrison to settle her outstanding fines before she leaves this building. And Mrs. Morrison, if you attempt to contact Emma directly before the next hearing, I'll hold you in contempt. As the bailiff approached Vanessa, she turned to me with pure desperation in her eyes. Marcus, please. Don't let them take her away from me. I made mistakes, but I love her. You love what she represents to your bank account, I said, standing up. You don't get to play the victim now. But as I walked out of that courthouse, David's hand on my shoulder should have felt like victory. Instead, all I could think about was Emma's note to God, asking to cost less money. Vanessa hadn't just stolen from me, she convinced my daughter that her existence was a burden. My phone rang as we reached the parking lot. Jenny's voice was strained. Marcus, Emma heard something on the radio about court proceedings. She's locked herself in the bathroom and won't come out. She keeps saying, I'm sorry, over and over. We're on our way, I said, but David grabbed my arm. Marcus, there's something else. While we were in court, I got a call from Detective Sarah Mills with the DA's office. They want to meet with you this afternoon. My stomach dropped. About what? Vanessa's financial fraud case. Apparently, this isn't the first time she's done something like this. David's expression was grim. They've been building a case against her for welfare fraud dating back 18 months. She's been claiming government assistance for single mothers while receiving your support payments. The magnitude of it hit me like a truck. She's been collecting welfare. $847 a month in food stamps, housing assistance, and emergency childcare funds. All while depositing your $1,200 checks and buying Louis Vuitton bags. David shook his head. Marcus, we're not talking about a bitter ex-wife anymore. We're talking about someone who's been running systematic fraud schemes. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Patricia Hoffman, Vanessa's attorney. We need to discuss a plea arrangement. Your client may be interested in our proposal. I showed the message to David, whose eyebrows shot up. They want a deal already. That was fast. What kind of deal? The kind where Vanessa realizes she's looking at federal fraud charges and potential jail time. David started walking toward his car. Marcus, I need you to understand something. If the DA's office is involved, this case just became about a lot more than custody and child support. As we drove toward Jenny's house, I couldn't shake the image of Emma locked in a bathroom, apologizing for existing. Vanessa's crimes were about to catch up with her in ways she never anticipated, but my daughter was still carrying the emotional damage of months of manipulation. My phone rang again. This time it was Detective Mills directly. Mr. Thompson, I know this is overwhelming, but I need to ask you some questions about your ex-wife's spending patterns. We have evidence suggesting she may have defrauded multiple government agencies totaling over $40,000. $40,000. While Emma gave away her lunch and prayed to cost less money. The war was far from over. 20 minutes after leaving the courthouse, I was sitting in Jenny's living room watching my 8-year-old daughter explain to a crisis counselor why she'd been hiding food in her backpack in case the electricity got turned off and we couldn't cook dinner. The counselor, a soft-spoken woman named Dr. Patricia Vance, had been called by Emma's school after the bathroom incident. She sat cross-legged on Jenny's carpet, speaking to Emma with the patience of someone who'd seen too many cases like this. Emma, when you say you were saving food, how long have you been doing that? Since Mommy started crying about the bills. Emma's voice was barely a whisper. She said we had to be really, really careful because Daddy wasn't helping anymore. So I started eating only half my sandwich and keeping the other half for later. My chest felt like it was being crushed. Baby girl, Daddy has been helping. Every month. Mommy just got confused about where the money was going. Emma looked at me with those big brown eyes that held too much worry for someone her age. But Daddy, if you were helping, why did Mommy cry when she looked at the bills? Why did she say we might have to move to a smaller house? Dr. Vance caught my eye and shook her head slightly, a warning not to badmouth Vanessa directly, even though every instinct screamed to tell Emma the truth about her mother's lies. Sometimes grown-ups get worried about money even when they don't need to, I said carefully. Like when you worry about a test even though you studied really hard. But Daddy, I heard Mommy on the phone with Grandma Sue. She said you told your lawyer you didn't want to pay for me anymore because you had better things to spend money on. The knife twisted deeper. Vanessa hadn't just lied to Emma, she'd involved her own mother in the deception. Emma, I promise you that never happened. I never said anything like that to anyone. My phone buzzed with a text from Detective Mills. Mr. Thompson, we need to meet today. Vanessa Morrison was arrested an hour ago trying to board a flight to Phoenix using a credit card that was reported stolen. This case just became much bigger. I stared at the message, my blood running cold. Jenny noticed my expression and quietly stepped outside to take a phone call, giving me privacy to process this bombshell. Daddy? You look scared. Emma's small voice pulled me back to the present. I'm not scared, sweetheart. Just surprised by something. I knelt down beside her on the carpet. Emma, I need you to know that no matter what happens with the grown-up stuff, you will always have food, clothes, and a home. Always. Dr. Vance leaned forward. Emma, your daddy is right. But I'm wondering, when you were worried about money, did it make your tummy hurt? Emma nodded. Especially at school during math. Numbers made me think about dollars, and dollars made me think about how much I cost. She looked at me apologetically. I tried to cost less, Daddy. I really did. That's when Jenny burst back through the front door, her face white as a sheet. Marcus, I just got off the phone with Sarah Chin. Vanessa cleaned out Emma's college savings account yesterday. $17,000. Gone. The room went dead silent except for the sound of my world crashing down around me. Emma's college fund, money I'd been contributing to since she was born, money from my parents before they died, money that was supposed to give my daughter opportunities one never had. What college account? Emma asked innocently. Mommy said college was for rich kids anyway. Dr. Vance closed her notebook and stood up. Mr. Thompson, I'm recommending immediate trauma counseling for Emma. What she's experienced goes far beyond typical divorce stress. As if this day couldn't get any worse, my phone rang. Detective Mills' name flashed on the screen, and something told me that Vanessa's arrest was just the beginning of a much darker story. I answered Detective Mills' call with trembling hands while Dr. Vance quietly explained to Emma that we needed to have some grown-up talk time. Mr. Thompson, I need you to sit down for this, Detective Mills said without preamble. We arrested Vanessa at Sky Harbor Airport 3 hours ago. She had $23,000 in cash, a fake ID under the name Victoria Martinez, and plane tickets to Phoenix connecting to Mexico City. The words hit me like a physical blow. Mexico City. It gets worse. When we searched her apartment, we found evidence of a much larger operation. She's been running this con on at least 3 other divorced fathers over the past 4 years. We found copies of forged child support termination letters for each of them. I sank into Jenny's kitchen chair, watching through the window as Emma colored with fierce concentration, probably trying to block out the adult chaos swirling around her. How many other kids? 4 children total, ages 6 to 12. All told their fathers stopped caring. All while their mothers collected support payments, welfare benefits, and in 2 cases, donations from church communities who believed they were helping destitute single mothers. The scope of it was staggering. Detective, my daughter has been starving herself because she thought we were poor. She's been saving lunch food in her backpack. I know. And I'm sorry to tell you this, but it's about to get more complicated. Detective Mills paused. One of the other fathers in this scheme is Roberto Martinez, Jessica's husband. The Jessica who came forward as your witness, then recanted. My stomach dropped. She was part of it. We think Vanessa has been blackmailing Jessica for months. Jessica came clean an hour ago, she was never at any book club meeting. Vanessa coached her on exactly what to tell you, then used her retraction to make you look unstable in court. Through the kitchen window, I watched Emma hold up her drawing to Dr. Vance, a stick-figure family where the daddy was separated from the mommy and little girl by what looked like a wall made of dollar signs. Detective, there's something else. My daughter's college fund was emptied yesterday. $17,000. We know. She tried to wire it to an account in the Cayman Islands this morning. We froze the transfer, but... Detective Mills sighed heavily. Mr. Thompson, your daughter's fund was mixed with stolen money from the other families. It's going to take months to sort out what belongs to whom. I felt like I was drowning. So Emma's college money is gone. For now, it's all evidence in a federal fraud case. The good news is we'll eventually recover most of it. The bad news is it could take 2 years. My phone beeped with another call, David Reeves. Detective, my lawyer is calling. Can I take it? But Marcus? There's one more thing. Vanessa's been recording phone calls with Emma for months. Coaching sessions where she's teaching your daughter what to say about you. We found over 40 hours of audio files. The line went dead just as David's call connected. Marcus, where are you? Judge Hawkins wants to see you in chambers immediately. Vanessa's attorney is asking for an emergency plea hearing, and apparently the FBI wants to interview you about financial crimes spanning multiple states. I looked through the window at Emma, who had moved on to a new drawing. This one showed herself as a tiny figure surrounded by giant numbers with angry faces. David, Emma doesn't know her mother's been arrested yet. She doesn't know about the fake IDs or the other families or the federal charges. She just knows that somehow, this is all her fault for costing too much money. Marcus, I need you to listen carefully. In about an hour, this story is going to break in the local news. Channel 7 already has footage of Vanessa being arrested at the airport. Emma's going to find out what her mother really is, and it's not going to be gentle. Through the window, I watched my daughter add tears to all the angry number faces in her drawing, and I realized that no matter how this ended, Emma's childhood was already over. 6 months later, I was sitting in Emma's new therapist's office watching my daughter explain her latest drawing to Dr. Sarah Kim. This one showed a house with 2 stick figures, Daddy and Emma, standing in front of a garden full of flowers that looked suspiciously like dollar signs, but happy ones with smiley faces. The money flowers don't scare me anymore, Emma announced proudly, holding up her artwork. Because Daddy taught me that money is just a tool, like a hammer or a screwdriver. It's not angry at me. Dr. Kim smiled and made a note. That's wonderful progress, Emma. How do you feel when you do math at school now? Sometimes my tummy still hurts a little, but I remember what Daddy said, numbers are just numbers. They don't decide if people love me. Emma looked at me with those big brown eyes that had slowly regained their spark over the past months. Right, Daddy? Right, baby girl. The transformation hadn't been easy or quick. Those first few weeks after Vanessa's arrest were brutal. Emma had to testify to a child advocate about the coaching sessions her mother had recorded. She learned that 3 other children had been manipulated the same way. Most devastating of all, she discovered that her mother was facing 15 years in federal prison for fraud, identity theft, and child endangerment across 4 states. But Emma was stronger than I'd ever imagined. The day Channel 7 aired their investigative report titled The Child Support Con, How One Woman Stole $180,000 While Children Suffered, Emma watched it with me on Jenny's couch. When Vanessa's mugshot filled the screen, Emma had simply said, "Mommy looks sad. I hope she learns to make better choices in jail." The legal aftermath was swift and satisfying. Vanessa pled guilty to avoid trial, receiving 12 years federal prison with no possibility of parole for 8. The judge specifically cited the psychological torture of innocent children in her sentencing decision. Every stolen dollar was ordered to be repaid with interest, not just to me, but to Roberto Martinez, David Chen, and Marcus Williams, the other fathers she'd conned. More importantly, Emma's college fund had been fully restored with an additional $8,000 in damages. The federal prosecutor, Margaret Torres, had made it her personal mission to ensure the children were compensated for their emotional suffering. Dar. Kim closed her notebook. Emma, I think you're ready to graduate from our regular sessions. How does once a month sound? Emma practically bounced in her chair. Really? Does that mean I'm not broken anymore? Sweetheart, you were never broken. You just needed time to understand that none of this was ever your fault. As we walked out of Dr. Kim's office, Emma slipped her small hand into mine. Daddy, can I ask you something? Always. When I grow up and have kids, will you teach me how to teach them about money the right way? So they never get scared like I did. I knelt down to her eye level right there in the hallway, not caring who saw me get emotional. Emma, that would be the greatest honor of my entire life. She hugged me tight, and for the first time in months, I felt like we'd truly won. My phone buzzed with a text from David. Vanessa's final asset seizure hearing is tomorrow. They found another $47,000 in hidden accounts. This should cover Emma's full ride to whatever college she chooses. Emma looked up at me curiously. Good news, Daddy. I smiled, thinking about the college fund that would now be worth more than I'd ever dreamed possible, funded entirely by her mother's crimes. The best news, baby girl. Want to stop for ice cream and talk about your future? Can we get 2 scoops? We can afford it now, right? Emma, we can afford anything that makes you happy. And finally, beautifully, that was the complete truth.